hello to all our IPA members and guests from across the world. And tonight we're actually involved in the third webinar of this webinar series on play in the time of COVID. And so I'd like to just acknowledge that the principle of Article 31, which is the real focus of our work at the International Play Association, is about supporting the conditions for play to take place. And that's why these series of webinars are so wonderful, because it's actually showcasing the work of our members who during the time of COVID have been supporting those conditions for play to happen in some very restricted environments across the world. And so we do have 23 member organisations or individuals presenting from 14 countries, which is probably the largest cross-section of presenters we've ever had who have submitted things for the IPA award series that we have run every year. So to date, we featured the themes of play at home at our first webinar series, and the second webinar series last week was play in schools and through the arts. And those webinars will be available for members to access shortly. We're just in the process of editing them, and that beginning where we all do our greetings will be cut out. Okay, so they'll be available for all of us to actually share and look back at and to share with our colleagues. Tonight's also, or this week is actually a very special week for us because for a number of our members on this coming weekend, on Friday and Saturday, is the Lunar New Year. And so on behalf of all the IPA members, I would like to wish those of us celebrating Lunar New Year, and you can see I'm getting into the celebration, you can see my Lunar New Year decorations. I'd like to say Gung Hai Fat Choi, and wish you all the best in the year of the ox. And so thank you for joining us, those people, because I know that it's a very busy time of year for you. And also special New Year wishes to our friends at Playwright Hong Kong. Playwright Hong Kong is doing the secretariat support on a volunteer basis for these 6 webinar series, and we really appreciate them and the leadership of Kathy Wong from Playwright Hong Kong, who is also the International Play Association Vice President. So thank you for that support, because without you, Playwright Hong Kong, it would have been very difficult to offer these sessions for free. So we appreciate you, and Gung Hai Fat Choi. So, tonight is our feature for Play in the Community, and we are joined by our IPA colleagues and presenters from New Zealand, Kia ora, Dave and Adam, and they're from the Healthy Active Learning team and Sport Canterbury. Now, I want you to bear in mind that Dave and Adam, it is 11 o'clock at night in New Zealand at the moment, which means that they are very brave, and they're actually, look at this everybody, 2 people in the same room together. Look at that. This is a country that has successfully at the moment not in lockdown. So this is really unique. We'll just all sit and stare at you, Adam, Dave, for that sort of uniqueness while we're all sitting in isolation. I know Australia, we can be together, but we just don't like each other in Australia. So Dave and Adam will be going first, and then following Dave and Adam, we are going to Deutschland, or Germany, and it will be Laura, Verena and Suzanne who will be presenting to us on their project. And Laura and Suzanne are waving at the moment and we hope Verena will be able to join us. She's doing a job interview, so we believe that should take priority, so that's great. And I will be able to practice a little bit of my German with them. And because I need to say, die deutsche Sprache, wenn ich spreche. So basically I can murder the German language really well. So I will try not to do it tonight for Laura and Suzanne. And then finally, we'll be finishing with Lindsay and Caroline from Aberdeen City Council, and they're presenting on their, and they're from Scotland, presenting on their Geronimo project. So we've got 3 tonight. IPA Wales is going to be joining us at a later session, and so they won't be online, but we've got these 3 groups who this evening will be able to present, and we'll be able to have plenty of discussion. As always, you can put your comments and your questions in the chat box, and we'll be able to take those into the discussion and feedback. And we're looking forward, as I say, every time I've done this, each time, even with the IPA India series, I always got inspired. So I will try not to talk too quickly when I get excited about what you've just said. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Adam and Dave from New Zealand, because if I speak much longer, they're going to fall asleep. So over to you, Adam and Dave. Thank you.
Kia ora. Hello and welcome. And I just want to acknowledge Caroline and Lindsay from Aberdeen, because that's where I went to university. Are we still on mute?
No. I thought I was thinking your accent was a Scottish one there.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
great.
From East Lothian, but I had 4 years in Aberdeen at university.
Oh, amazing.
And we've got East Lothian Play Association here tonight as well. So,
wow.
So yeah, I used to work for East Lothian Council.
So everyone from East Lothian, sing out hello now.
Yeah, I used to work for East Lothian Council, and I grew up there.
There you go.
Wow.
All right. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Adam tōku ingoa no tūtahi ahau. Hello, everybody. My name is Adam. I am from Christchurch, New Zealand.
Ko Dave tōku ingoa no Otatahi ahau. I'm also from Christchurch, New Zealand, but I'm also from East Lothian, Scotland.
We would like to just at the start acknowledge Robin, Kathy, Playwright Hong Kong, all of you IPA members and guests are here tonight and as part of the wider IPA. I would also just like to acknowledge as we start that we are presenting on behalf of our team, Healthy Families Ōtautahi Christchurch, based at Sport Canterbury, and also the Healthy Active Learning team. So we worked in collaboration on this project together. And also would like to acknowledge Te Arakorapiko West Braden School, which is the setting for this awesome project. And also Ms. Puameria Parataguru from Te Pākura Limited, so who is also involved, and will explain a little bit more about her involvement, but has also been part of this Poipoia Time to Play project.
So yeah, just to start off with, we just wanted to talk more about Healthy Families Ōtautahi Christchurch, the team and approach we take. So we take a systems approach to our work in creating healthier environments and settings across our city. So it's where people live, where they learn, where they work, and most importantly, it's where people play. So through this approach, we can zoom out for a more strategic collective impact approach. Or when we need to, or at times we deep dive into communities to support local change, and then bring that community voice up to that strategic level to create larger scale impact. So we're guided by our theory of change, which also includes our guiding pillars. And that's if we support equitable partnerships to protect accessibility, equity and inclusivity to participate and play, by amplifying and connecting a range of opportunities at community, local and regional levels, then this will enable more play provision and eventually lead to a play-centric city that helps support well-placed people and places.
Okay, so Poipoia Time to Play. What was this project about? It's about supporting tamariki, so children's right to play during and beyond times of crisis. In Ōtautahi Christchurch, our tamariki, our children, have grown up with significant challenges. These include 2 major earthquakes, thousands of aftershocks, a major terror attack, fires on our port hills, on our hills within our city, and then a global pandemic as well. Students at the city's southwestern Te Arakorapiko West Braden School have become accustomed to learning and playing on a temporary site through the result of rebuild occurring on their own site. And as expected, they've really risen to the challenge. One group of the students at the school has been training as what we call PALs, or physical activity leaders, to better understand the role of play and well-being and the position they are in to help take positive messages to their peers. These students have co-designed, along with our team, our Healthy Active Learning team and our Healthy Families Ōtautahi Christchurch teams, a new project, which is Poipoia Time to Play, which was unveiled in August on their school grounds, which is their temporary grounds at the moment. While their school is being rebuilt, the students have had to adapt to this temporary space to meet their social and their recreational and play needs. The school is culturally diverse, and it's also characterised by high levels of deprivation. The Popoia Time to Play project helps the school add value through creative play and physical activity opportunities for tamariki during this period of significant transition, but also beyond, as the students and as the school transition back to eventually what will be their original school site. Popoia Time to Play, what is it? It's actually in that photo that you're seeing there. It's a box of play equipment. Inside the box is all sorts of different things, from old school play equipment, loose parts play, traditional sports equipment as well. And it's come through the inspiration of the students co-design themselves. Play is now also part of Sport New Zealand Ihi Aotearoa's strategic plan, and so they recognise the importance of play and its positive effects on tamariki and contributing towards well people and places.
So in terms of the innovative aspects of the project and what made this project different, was that it wasn't us telling kids how to play or telling them what they should be doing. This was community led by the young people of the school. The school gave them the platform and the permission to actually take a blank piece of paper, take some time out of the classrooms and actually tell us how what they wanted, how they wanted to do it, and what was going to be specific to the needs of the young people within the school. As Adam mentioned, in an environment that's been with considerable limitations, the temporary site, which was the original school, was very badly damaged in the 2011 earthquake. Living through a pandemic of being out of school, in the school, in the community, out of the community. The Poi is a product of real innovation from the young physical activity leaders. It inspires play and physical activity experiences that are accessible and equitable for all young people within the school, not just those who did help design the product itself. It reinforces the value of play to social, emotional, and physical and academic development, and also looking at how they can use play within curriculum, then also how they can take that from the school setting to the community during the week and weekends with their families. What was unique about this particular part of this project is that how the students were prepared to adapt and be innovative in considering what connection and movement looked like in the changed environments from the uncertainty of which school site they were going to be based on. The students themselves have become champions for the value of play and physical activity to well-being and resilience, and their efforts were celebrated with the delivery of the pod, which was the first in line across the region. And as Adam mentioned, it's filled with tools, tricks, and inspiration to keep their classmates engaged, moving, and motivated in healthier and trying times. But what is not in the box, and what the young people bring to the box, is that fun, the laughter, the engagement with each other, which they can only get from the equipment that's been supplied from the work within Sport Canterbury. So what was unique again is Popoia celebrates the vision of the students. It's a symbolic of the spirit of Otatahi young people. It's vastly important mission of our schools to keep the kids or keep our young people learning, growing, and playing, and aligned to our vision of making it the most playful city in Aotearoa or across New Zealand. And the nature of the innovations is, given the transition, the testing times they've been through over the last decade, it's the fact that young people still want to be part of it, still want to play, still want to learn, and all while weathering the storm of a worldwide pandemic that still, that reached the community within Christchurch.
Great. So one of the things which is important to us is respecting and enhancing the local culture and acknowledging local iwi, so local Indigenous tribes and sub-tribes as well. The school is culturally diverse, And so planning around the play pod, around Poipoia Time to Play, we wanted to consider this. Our team and the Healthy Active Learning team, we wanted to explore the possibility of seeking an Indigenous language name, a Māori language name for the play pod. So a name was through work from one of our colleagues through a Māori systems return approach. We had some wonderful engagement with Ms. Puameria Paratoguru from Te Pākura Limited. And so Puameria gifted us and gifted the school a name, a Māori name, an Indigenous name for the play pod, which is Poipoia Time to Play. So some additional background to what the name is there's a phrase which says Poipoia te kākano kia puawai, which means nurture the seed and it will blossom. Interestingly, a number of schools around the city have applied through some national funding available to them to enable play in their own communities, and they love the essence of Poipoia Time to Play so much that they're also keen to use exactly that on their own play pods also.
So in terms of the impact of Poipoia, we've put some quotes up there from the principal and from the Health Active Learning consultant from Sport New Zealand as well. We're continually, I can't even say that word now, that must be the tiredness. We're continuing to evaluate as we go, take feedback from and learn from the young people within the school, what's worked, what hasn't worked. We actually had a full staff hui, or a full staff meeting from Sport Canterbury at the end of back in November, and we invited the physical activity leaders from West Braden School to come along and be present. And some of the feedback we actually got from them at the time saying it's been great, but we need a ball pump, or we've run out of cones. So little bits of feedback like that are key for us in terms of continuing to understand what else is required with the pod, but also great to hear that how well they are being utilised and the vast variety of activities that the young people from the school are able to complete using the pod.
Awesome. So Poipoia Time to Play, the Playpod project at the school actually was really what kick-started a bigger project as well for us as a trust, and that was we've now gifted 6 Playpods, Poipoia Time to Play, within the same project to various communities around Ōtautahi Christchurch. And they are either being used to enable play within a school setting, within a community setting through a community organisation, or at a faith-based organisation as well. One such engagement, we actually worked with one of the Islamic centres, Raza O'ala Islamic Centre in Christchurch here. And the Islamic community were heavily impacted through the terror attacks a couple of years ago. And this was a real awesome opportunity for us to connect with some of their community and help support play to contribute towards trauma recovery. A bigger part of that project was we not only co-designed with tamariki young people from their centre what play stuff would go in the play pod, we also co-designed what the play pod would look like. So that took on a bit of different form. We then engaged with a local secondary school here just down the road from our office, and a young person from the school built the box, the pod, for that community. So that was a whole nother story again. In addition, we've also gifted a play pod to each of our regional centres in Mid-Canterbury, South Canterbury and the West Coast to also support play enablement in communities there. And Poipoia Time to Play is now extended into a play trailer. The play trailer is a trailer full of play stuff, loose parts play, traditional sports equipment and everything in between. And it's there for communities and organisations to rent free of charge to enable play in their own communities, in their own neighbourhoods and in their own events. It doesn't cost anything to hire it, What we do ask in return is that those communities send us a blurb with a positive story of impact as a result of using the play trailer, and they gift a piece of play equipment to add to the play trailer.
I actually used to play trailer from one of my kids' birthday parties last year. It's great. So what we want to show you here is just a video that was of the, as we get the technology sorted, of a piece of reporting that was done on our national news channel on TVNZ1, where they had a local reporter come along and tell the story of the gifting of the pod. But I'll let the video speak for itself.
COVID-19 pandemic continues to have a significant impact on children, creating stress, anxiety and disrupting their usual routines. But one Christchurch school is fighting back through the healing powers of play. Here's Thomas Mead.
Sometimes all you need is a bit of fun, a chance to kick back and forget all the troubles in the world. And so this Christchurch school has made play part of their everyday curriculum.
Well, I think it's just because of all the fun, just that joy that it brings.
The COVID pandemic has been especially tough on children, turning their lives upside down like never before. And so this week, the children of Te Ara Karapiko in Christchurch were given a chest full of equipment, accepting the koha in style and quickly putting it to good use.
The research shows us that when children play...
The video is not playing, guys. Maybe you just stop.
It's not just the pandemic. Many of these children have never known a time when it's a major disaster.
Sorry, I'm just going to say, with the video is not playing, but if you click on your screen, Adam, on slideshow or play, like to play the, because at the moment we're not seeing the whole thing. So Heidi,
what we'll do is we'll send a link to you, and if you wanted to send the link out with the presentation,
that'd be great. Or even if you want to put the link into the chat, that's fine as well. But yeah, I'm not sure that if you actually, at the moment, you're the screen that we're looking at, when we're seeing, we're not actually seeing their we're seeing the other slides as well. It's just the screen. You're not actually playing the slideshow, if that makes any sense.
We'll put the link into the chat so people can see the story and watch the video in their own time.
Sure. So you have to quit the presentation and then share the video again. Susanna's letting us know. Okay.
All right. We'll add the link to the video in just a moment. But for the meantime, that's yep. So just 1 second, sorry, just before we go back into this. Here's,
in the meantime, we just know that New Zealand's just bragging by sitting together in their screen.
Pretty much. Enjoying the 25 degrees on the beaches. Although I do miss the snow, I'm not going to lie to you. My mum and dad sent a picture of the snow this morning. I was like, oh man. Anyway, so just to wrap up, we would like to thank Robin and the International Play Association for their acknowledgement of Poi Poi, A Time to Play. We are honoured to be sharing the story alongside so many other inspirational play projects across the globe. I'm very much look forward to learning from others this evening, and as we continue our aspiration of making Christchurch the most playful city in New Zealand. So we're also very grateful for the enthusiasm of Te Ara Karapiki West Prison School and all the teams across our trust, across the regions that are involved in creating play opportunities happen on a day-to-day basis. So anytime anyone wants to chat to us, we're always keen to share. And yeah, I'd like to say thank you again for the opportunity. So ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Thank you to you all, and thanks for your time.
Thank you, Adam and Dave. It's a wonderful example of that culturally inclusive practice and engaging with the community, and even the reflection of Article 12, which is the child's right to be consulted, and that is part of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. So really great, and I'm sure we'll be able to return it shortly after the other presentations to sort of discuss more about that idea of co-design, and certainly the navigating the complexity of the relationships, which I'm sure you needed to do in bringing the Tamarikis together. So that will be something that people might want to talk a little bit more about when we come to the discussion. And as Jeremy has said from Puerto Rico, she's saying thank you. It was wonderful seeing children's faces of joy, and it certainly is to see that. Lots of great ideas there that we can think about. It is now time to head across to Germany. So we're traveling the world. We've gone from New Zealand. We're now heading to the next part of our world journey to hear from Laura and Suzanne about something called Playing Peas in Nuremberg in Germany. So I will hand over to you, Suzanne.
Okay, so I will share the presentation. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can. All
okay.
running.
All running. Nice. So thank you for being invited to join this meeting, and we're looking forward to present you this project we did last summer here in Germany. So first of all, Playing Peas. It doesn't work. No. Okay. So first, a few things about us, because we're not located in Nuremberg. We're from all over the country in Germany. So we're a few play workers who decide to found this organization, and we call it Playing Peas, in 2017 because of the refugee situation in Greece. And first of all, the intention was to go to the camps to support play work there, to give those people and kids in the camp at the refugee camps possibilities to play. So this was the main reason. And then we decided to go on with several projects. We are all totally volunteered. We're not getting paid in any way. So it's just our hobby to make such projects. Sorry for being a bit nervous. As you can see, our purpose is to promote mobile play working all over Europe. So we have connections to several countries, and but we all did it, like I said, volunteered. So it depends. When we get a idea or we have a funding, so we can make some projects, and if not, we're having our projects. Okay. So. And now, Laura.
Okay, now I will tell you something about our project Follow the Line. So in German, it's another title. It's called Spielecke. For you, Robin, you can take it. And Spielecke means like something like play corner, but Follow the Line is like a kind of a subtitle or an alternative title, because it's the main idea of the games we painted on the floor, but this later. So first, what was our goal or our motivation with this project? We wanted to achieve more playability in public spaces, just like motivate children especially to explore and design the places of common life in their area of living. So we wanted to empower them. And then the next question maybe could be why we wanted to do that? Why do we want to empower them? Why is that important? So in Germany, you have a lot of do's and don'ts, like signs everywhere: don't play, be quiet, don't touch everything. And so in times of the pandemic, it's even stricter and even more rules, of course. And only small separate areas are allowed as playgrounds and can be used for self-determined leisure activities. And yeah, most of the public spaces are not, so children are not allowed to play there. And especially in the lockdown, the playgrounds were closed, so there were hardly places and spaces for children to play. And then in beginning of 22, there was a funding program supported by the Quartier U1 and developed by the Urban Lab Nuremberg, like a bunch of creative people who trying to make urban areas like to have more access for participation for all people. And they took place in a program of the German Office for Urban Development. And yeah, in this program, there were nearly 40 applications of small non-profit organizations and local institutions that applied for projects like urban gardening or pop-up self-help workshops or open art classes in public spaces, just yeah, actions and programs to empower for participation in urban life. And yeah, could you make the next folies? I don't know how you say folie, like sheet. Yeah, exactly. So we have joined as well the call by Quartier U1, and the goal of Quartier U1 was to offer campaigns at underground stations to revitalize public spaces. So underground stations are like need a lot of space in cities, but it's like there's no opportunity to use them in a self-determined way, especially for children. So the Quartier U1 had the idea, oh, we have a lot of space there, why don't we use it like we want and like all the people in the cities want? So we had the idea of painting subway stations and transforming them into play areas. And yeah, how you can imagine, it's quite unusual, and it opens up great opportunities. So it was very important to us to ask the children how they want to create this area and what they want to play there. And yeah, therefore we there was 2 participation campaigns before the actual painting campaign. And the ideas we got from the children and people coming by, we implemented later in our painting. The project is also designed to be inexpensive and easy to implement. So like an additional sentence to that, when we applied for the program, the pandemic wasn't, so there was no pandemic. We applied in January, and we thought about making big events and like ask a lot of people and children to play with them and ask them for their ideas. So then it started with the COVID, and we had to yeah, we had to think about solutions. How can we ask people and children, how can we act in a public space in times of pandemic? And now we want to show you our recipe for painting streets and public spaces in times where there are a lot of rules and a lot of risks and dangers, maybe. So this is the part of Verena. Verena is still not here. Suze, how do we organize? You wanna start with the recipe?
Yeah. So we think we want to empower people to imitate projects, because we think it's perfect if they can do it by themselves. So we can show them how to do this. And so we decided to make this project recipe because it's no miracle to do this project. So you have to find a funding program, or you have a public space, or otherwise or the other way around, and then you can say, okay, I want to paint this, or I want to make this place more playable for different kind of groups. Or you have a group like young people, and they say, hey, we want to paint something, or we want to make something here to make it to adapt more the place to our needs. And so in Germany, the most difficult part is to get the permission, because we have this long ways with politics and thousands of documents you need. So finally we were able to do it. And then it's important do a lot of networking in the districts, try to find local supporters, invite the groups and the people to participate on the project, and ask the children and people who are using these places and spaces daily, because we are there for 1 or 2 times, and then maybe we're leaving again. So it's very important that the people who live there are the main characters in the project. So and then we asked the people about their needs and their ideas, and try to get them a bit creative with this. We show some pictures later to get creative ideas to paint the underground station. And then it's very important to have appropriate paint, because we cannot use normal painting. So yeah, and then get everyone together and start painting. And now we can show you how this goes, if the next folio will work. Yes. Okay, now you see these long ways of the underground station. It's very long. So and there are 2 sides, one from right and one from left, and you see it's very boring. There's nothing, but there is a lot of traffic at the day. So and the Südstadt South District is a multicultural district in Nürnberg, and the area around this place called Maffei Place is characterized by social buildings and large streets. There's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of people, and there are these high houses, and it's a very affected by social and financial risk situations. So this is why the program U1 wants to do something in this district to empower people there and to make something, to bring cool stuff to the people there. You want to go on?
Hey. The next step was the participation campaigns, and we wanted to take them place at there where we wanted to paint. So it's I think it's important when you do the participation when you start participation programs, that you try to provide an easy access, especially for children. So when you ask children, like in school, so how you want to paint the underground station, so what could you say? Where should we paint the floor, the wall? I don't know. How does it look like, the underground station? So we tried to make it to provide an easy access, and we took photographs of this ramp. You see it here. It's the way down to the underground station, and we took a photo and printed it. So you see that on the picture on the right side. So that you stand on the ramp and you see it in real, and then you can try it with, I think you call it chalk. You can paint with chalk, and then you can think about, okay, how could we translate it in a model, and then you can paint it on the little sheet in front of you, and like you have two methods to bring your idea on the ground or on the paper. And yeah, so we just went there on a Saturday afternoon, where people are hanging around, making leisure activities, having time, and for example, going into the park. And yeah, I think Grit is joining us. Maybe Grit, you want to turn on your camera and say hello, because Grit is also part of the Playing Peace Association. There she is. Hello, Grit. And Grit as well were joining the participation campaigns and the painting campaign. And yeah, so in the end of the two participation campaigns, we had a lot of, you see it on the right picture down, we had a lot of kind of models and ideas on the sheets, on the paintings. And yeah, so we had how can you say that? So we used that to implement the painting.
So yeah, and then the day came, and the pandemic was also determinate our life. So we had to change some things, like we said, and this is our group. We wanted to invite more kids and young people to participate at the action, but we cannot do this because of the pandemic, because of COVID. So we decided, okay, but we wanna bring these ideas from the kids to the on the floor. So yeah, and we meet up for one day in Nuremberg. It was very hot and it was very beautiful day. So and then we start painting, and now you see how this going on. I think we paint at least 12 hours, and it's very funny sitting 12 hours on a underground, watching all the traffic and all the people and all their comments, because some people say, hey, I want to play, and some people say, oh, you have to pay for my shoes if they get any painting. And so it was very, the social interaction was also very, very cool. So, and a lot of yeah, some kids were participating also by yeah, more, they were curious what we are doing there, and so we painted a bit together. And so this is the whole day starting, and now you see some results, and you see it's, yeah, 12 hours of work on both sides of the underground. And now this is also a very cool thing, and maybe Laura, you can say something to the art.
Yeah, it was really great because there's a local artist in Nuremberg. She's called Regina Pemsel, and she as well took part in the program Quartier U1, and she had the goal to design all the underground stations in Nuremberg with the same method, and you see the method here on the pictures. She invited people coming by to take their cities in their hands, like you see on the picture, and just make a comment, like a comment about their wishes, hopes, fears, just like just like things that are in their minds when they're going by. And so she invited us when she was designing the underground station where we painted. She invited us to take part in her project, and so we as well could design like this, I don't know how to call this, things that are built that bikes can't go through. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that was great, and that was like, we didn't expect to inspire like local artists or other projects to do that, but what we expected and hoped, that we inspire a lot of people, and especially children, to use our paintings. And it's so nice to go by like now, or like by occasion, at the underground station and see like children going down to the underground and using the line to follow in their own self-determined way, like jumping, running, turning around, whatever. It's really great to see that.
And even the grown-ups too. So I think it's not only for children. So yeah. And the artwork of Regina Pemsel was good for us to we built some from the children's rights. We put some children's rights on there so everybody can read now, and we can promote a bit more the children's rights on these stopper things there. So.
Yeah, for example, on the picture on the right down, there's the title, Ich habe ein Recht auf Spiel, du auch. That means I have the right to play, you too, like you have it as well, like a motivation. Yeah. Okay.
So this is our statement after the project. So because the pandemic presented us with major challenges, and our project was one of a few projects that we can do, and mir fehlen die Worte, sag mal.
Like I think you mean it was one of just a view of project that could take place in pandemic times. You mean that? Yeah, exactly. Because like conditions changed so much, and nobody could expect that what came last year. So a lot of the project who applied in the program Quartier U1 couldn't take place.
So, but it also became obvious how important these public play areas are, because most of the playgrounds were closed during the pandemic. So the children and young people had no choice to go outside and play on a normal playground. So it's more important to have daily used play access and playability spaces they can use every time, and not when the state says, okay, no, you're not allowed to go there, and you're not allowed to go there, and they need to play, because it's very important. We don't have to discuss that, but this is one of the projects, I think, which is very cool and very low budget and very easy to imitate, to create more playability spaces in a city. And yeah, even there's a pandemic in the world. So because it's possible to create the conditions that you can do it, even there is this pandemic. So yeah, and I think this is a good way, a good thing to promote and to strengthen and secure the right to play for children in cities or villages or public spaces in general. So yeah, thank you for listening, and sorry for my stumbling English. So, and we have also a video if you like, and I will start it now, but I have to stop the presentation first. And now there's a bit more you can see. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
So this is the beginning at 8:30 in the morning. And then 10 hours later, this is one side. And then the other side. And this manga was painted by a young man who joined us. So we'll have fun to play. Yeah, of course. Okay, we're finished.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What I'd like to say is that was really, I said, lots of comments, people feeling really inspired. But just to the two of you, to Laura and Susie, and to your team, last week I mentioned about Play Heroes, and that everybody who is working so hard to ensure that children's rights to play are protected during this time. And when we hear, and I'm sure so many of us were so inspired to hear that you formed this, not NGO as volunteer play workers with this mission. And so, you really do epitomise or personify what a play hero is. So I've put you as a hashtag, Playing Peas as hashtag Play Heroes. So really, I say it's really wonderful to have that, and to know your commitment is just shining through. So really, thank you. There were some questions asking about that consultation, how you get it, which is the same with the New Zealand. So it'll be a great discussion for, how do you generate that participation? So we'll move on to Aberdeen City Council, but yes, we'll come back. And Susie, never need to apologise at IPA for English. Your English is excellent. And as I told you in bad German. I just had told you I murder the German language when I speak it. And so, you know, it was excellent, but you never need to worry about English. We're all quite accepting of however English is delivered in IPA. And as I say, it was wonderful to have you present. So thank you so much. Okay, and now it is over to Lindsay and Caroline from Aberdeen City Council, and we're going to hear about the Geronimo project. So another great community activity. And here
Great, thank you. I believe Caroline has had some tech issues and has dropped out. I think she was going to try and get back in, so I think she's got some internet. Oh, you're there, great. Okay, I didn't see you on the screen.
Oh, come on. We'll spotlight you, Carolyn, if you like.
Well, I need to.
Okay.
There we go.
Here she is.
Yay, great. Okay, well, thank you. It's really fantastic to be here and in the company of so many brilliant other projects. I'm just so aware of the commonalities between us all across the world, which is really nice. So I will go ahead and share my screen. This is the tech bit that makes me a little bit nervous. Just so hang on a second. PDF. Okay, I'm on a PDF here rather than yeah, I'll just have to do it this way. Does that look okay, or are you seeing all everything else around my screen here? Is that a bit messy?
We are seeing everything else around your screen, but if that's the
oh, hang on. If I do this.
That's much better.
Okay, hopefully I can manage to get through the slides. So myself, I'm Lindsay Dawson, and I work with the creative learning team within Aberdeen City Council. And Caroline, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello everybody, I'm Caroline, and I work with the City Council, and I'm a qualified community worker, but also a forest school qualified leader as well.
Okay. What we were going to talk about and the work that we ended up doing during the pandemic became known as Geronimo at the Grove. So before we go on to that, I just want to touch on briefly where Geronimo came from. And I'm conscious of not going into too much of a preamble, so I know we want to get onto the Grove. So here we go. Okay. So Geronimo began back in 2014 when it was a seed, really. It was a piece of research that was commissioned by the creative learning team into what would become known as Geronimo. And we worked with the partners listed here: Play Scotland, Aberdeen Play Forum, Adventure Aberdeen, and a few freelance artists as well. And the research really was looking at the three elements of play, creativity, and challenge or risk, really just pushing out of one's comfort zone. This was developed over a course of weeks, and these ideas were drafted into a report and helped to shape what Geronimo was to become. So we ran the pilot. I wasn't involved in the research, I should say. That was before my involvement. But I was involved at this point when we ran the first pilot project in 2016. And really the formula for Geronimo is, well, we were inspired by the research that was done by ourselves and our partners. We also looked to other studies and reports coming out of the Scottish Government, such as the Growing Up in Scotland study, and also the work of Suzanne Zeedyk on attachment. All of these things help to inform what Geronimo would become. Incidentally, the name Geronimo wasn't coined by myself. I can't take credit for that, but it's really summed up as a leap into the unknown, and we felt that really was very apt. The pilot was funded for 10 weeks in a community with higher levels of deprivation. We worked with a drama practitioner and 2 visual artists, and we ran for 10 weeks, and it was a huge success. We had 30 participants average every week coming along. So Geronimo is about creating time out to play for early years children, 0 to 5s, and their parents or carers together. And that is the key part of Geronimo, is to have the parents' involvement. Children know exactly how to play, but just require to be given the tools, the space, and the support to engage their natural curiosity. Geronimo is strictly no or very low resource, so any materials used can usually be found at home or obtained for very little cost or sourced for free. We demystify creativity as requiring talent, skill, or expensive materials, and the artist shows the parent how, with just a few basic materials, and learning how to follow the child's lead. And there's huge scope for fun, connection, learning, exploring the imagination, problem solving, and trying something new. The Geronimo formula always ends with a shared lunch together, which underlines the nurturing quality of this work. This became the Geronimo model that we trialed in the pilot, and which, due to the effectiveness of each of these elements, we have continued to grow and develop as we've moved forward. So I'll just briefly touch on the aims and the outcomes, because that is quite important. It sort of underpins everything, all of our work. So there's benefits for both the children and the parents. The impact on the children is strengthening family relationships through quality and creative time together. Increasing resilience, being child-led, allows for risk. Risk includes not knowing the outcome of something. Strengthening positive attachment patterns, building trust, security, and confidence, and early parental engagement helps lead to this. And positive attachment has a direct impact on a child's future attainment, taking the form of encouraging learning across all areas, developing curiosity and imagination, enabling flexibility and creativity, creative thinking skills, problem solving and innovation, and also collaboration. And for parents, really, it's just about confidence building and giving them the tools, really, and just oftentimes, if they're coming from quite stressful home environments, just actually taking time out to play, to a neutral space, to outdoors, is really beneficial. And really also showing parents that they actually have everything they need for play already at home. So very briefly, from 2017 to the start of 2020, we continued to attract funding and partners for this work, which took us into communities most in need across the city. In addition, we worked with school nurseries in the annual Arts Cross Learning Festival, which takes artists into primary schools, and with Aberdeen Performing Arts as part of their Music Hall Babies project. And that's some of the stats of the numbers that we've worked with. And these are pictures from our most recent work in 2019. So we got funding confirmed at the very beginning of 2020, before we'd heard of COVID-19. And we had plans to follow the formula I've just gone over there, and work in groups, group drop-in sessions in different parts of the city, working with artists. So we had the funding confirmed, and the plan was to run 40 weeks across areas of high deprivation. We also intended for the first time, ironically, to pilot one-to-one work with more vulnerable families within their own homes, which seems like a distant kind of memory now to even imagine we thought we could do that. But then obviously COVID arrived. So I'm going to hand over to Caroline now, because we, as part of our funding application at the start of 2020, we decided we would like to partner up with Family Learning, because despite the success of the work, we felt we were still not reaching those families who could most benefit from this work. So this seemed like a really positive partnership. Okay, Caroline, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, okay. So when lockdown happened, Family Learning were involved in trying to support families at a distance, you know, by telephone, WhatsApp, etc., Facebook. And there was about 120 families on the books during the last lockdown, including considerable additional, you know, families coming through the COVID helpline and emergency support forum, which was set up to cope with the pandemic. Now, the kind of issues were a lot of parenting issues, so maybe behaviour, sleep, food issues. Mental health was a huge issue, and lots of families really struggled. Another really prominent issue was food poverty and fuel poverty. And so we were there along with our partners to try and support families to make sure they could get food and fuel, so they weren't left high and dry. And also homeschooling issues, because I think in the first lockdown, it's fair to say that some of the tech issues from school to pupils at home wasn't really in place. And some of them struggled to have devices and also the Wi-Fi to be able to do the homeschooling. So there was a lot of stress on families generally. So if we move on to the next slide, thanks, Lindsay. So basically, this is where Geronimo at the Grove grew out of the whole lockdown situation. And so by the spring and early summer, we began to look together about what we were allowed to do under lockdown and the existing restrictions. And so we began to look forward to that. And really, the only feasible option was outdoors. We weren't allowed to meet with people inside at all. Now, Family Learning were keen to exploit, you know, the use of the outdoors, and because I had the forest school qualifications and also a Family Learning team member, we were able to work very clearly and closely with Creative Learning to sort of put something together. Now, the location that we used for this project was called the Grove Nursery, and Lindsay was already familiar with this location. And it's a unique kind of space, and it was managed by the Aberdeen City Council Countryside Ranger Service, and it used to be a nursery, like a plant nursery, but it was abandoned in the 1990s, and because they started to buy in the plants rather than grow them, and it was left to go to seed until it was rediscovered. And it was developed into a kind of a wild space to be exploited by various groups, and it can be booked. It's not open to the general public, but it can be booked by groups and communities. Schools use it, community groups use it, and also adults use it as well to do things like mental health work, you know, branching out, etc. So it's a well-used space, and the beauty of it is it's a private space. So there was a security around it, and it's a safe place, and it's accessible, and it's fairly central. It's nearby a large park in Aberdeen called Hazelhead Park, which is a fantastic space in the city. It's got sheltered natural woodland, and it's got a range of flora and fauna, which makes it absolutely perfect for outdoor learning and kind of forest school kind of activities. And it's also large enough for social distancing, which was a key factor as well. So it was a perfect space, and that's where we've decided to hold the Geronimo at the Grove. Just to also say that when some of the families actually came here, it was incredible to hear that some children had never been in a forest before, and they were really quite enthralled by the sensory experience this gave them. And also parents who'd, you know, been experiencing a variety of stresses due to the whole lockdown situation were given the opportunity of healing time in nature, just being in that natural space. So if we move on to the next slide, Lindsay, thank you. So here's our families. There's a picture of some of our families. So we used creative and forest school ethos, and we were able to work with about 20 families over the 5 weeks that we worked with the project. Now these families were handpicked. We used a criteria to try and identify who was most in need with my family learning colleagues from the families that we were working with, the more vulnerable families. Now, due to the fact that we were responding to need locally post-lockdown, we worked with families up to the age of 12. Traditionally, Geronimo was under 5s, but families come with all ages of children. So basically, this project worked with children from 0 up to the age of 12, whoever was in that family, because that made the most sense. And this was following almost 4 months of lockdown, you know, while they were able to socialise outside their family bubble. And for many children, outdoor and other varied activities would have been severely limited for a variety of reasons, including things like external stresses related to poverty and unemployment, chaotic lifestyles in many cases, and health and well-being concerns. You'll see here a quote about the forest school kind of ethos, which really just says all about what we were trying to do. The children's right to play and the right to access the outdoors, and in particularly here a woodland environment, and also the right to access risk and a vibrant reality to the natural world. So 20 families, each family were offered about 3 sessions over the period of time. So 30 days, 16 social total sessions. There was a drama practitioner involved from Creative Learning and myself, and we delivered the programme on the ground. We were able also to provide taxi transportation was provided by the project and paid for, so there was no barrier to getting families to the space, and also outdoor resources like waterproofs and wellies were also provided for all members of the family, so that again that would not be seen as a barrier for them being able to participate. Because although this was summer in Scotland, and unfortunately it's not always sunny and warm, so we do get rain quite a lot in the summer. So, you know, to make sure that these families could participate, that was a useful thing to provide. There was also a time out in nature, and it allowed for strengthening of relationships between children and within and around the family. So I think if we move on now, we're going to look at the next slide. Thank you. So just to give you an idea of the kind of things we did, there was a bit of a framework for each session, because we had sort of a loose plan for each session. Jessica and I, the drama practitioner from Creative Learning. But there was still the opportunity within that for choice and for free play within those sessions. So we always started off with the Geronimo welcome song to welcome everybody. And we did some sort of warm-up games just for people to get to know each other, reacquaint, using nature-related themes such as woodland animals, nature, you know, fauna in the forest, to hopefully, I suppose, educate a little bit maybe children's understanding of the kind of animals and creatures that might live in the forest, and you know, get to know them a little bit. So we also did flag making, again, to kind of, you know, give people an idea, and you can see a picture there of somebody holding up their flag using natural materials. So again, it was very creative. They could decide what to put on their flag, how it looked, etc. We did den building, and well, in some cases I was very competitive. The families really went to town. Some families did it individually, with 2 families in each space, but others wanted to do it as one big group. Social distancing, of course, but so they really had a great time, and we had some amazing games, just amazing. And the parents also got really involved, which was really good to see. They created obstacle courses, and then they tried and tested them on each other. You know, so again, a lot of, you know, motor skills, developing motor skills, both you know, gross and smaller. Sorry, I can't think of the word right now. We also did campfire cooking, with marshmallows, popcorn, and bananas filled with chocolate if they wanted. And what I remember one family saying to me, "We've never done bananas with chocolate in them ever. That was really good. We're going to do that at home." And you know, we involved the families in the fire, so they got an understanding of what fire was, and also, you know, the safety issues around that, of course, but also letting the children try the flint and steel, getting the spark, understanding what you need for a fire. All those sort of things came into the package. We used clay for doing natural creations, scavenger hunt, and Jessica Hernandez, the creative learning person, did a lot on storytelling, because that's her background, unique storytelling skills and a nurturing approach. So that was really good as well. Wildlife watching and exploring the site. You know, if a squirrel came along, and there were squirrels, we had red squirrels, quite often we'd see them, and the children were just, you know, everybody was amazed and just wanted to watch them and look at them. And then we saw evidence of them being there through the sort of cones, the seeds they'd nibbled out of the cones. So they were always on the lookout for the squirrels, which was great as well. So really, you know, we provided a kind of workstation so it could be socially distanced. For each person, we had a pop-up toilet, we had other resources, but as you can see from the pictures, it's quite a good natural space that we could all be in. So it was really perfect. And as I say, there were lots of opportunities for exploration and a bit of free stuff as well, free play. So we'll move on to the next slide, thank you. Thanks. So storytelling and exploring, right. Now, in this environment, we dealt with a range of moods and emotions for a variety of reasons at many of the sessions from the children. The parents frequently simply needed a wee break, and this was the perfect antidote every time, was to go for an explore in the woodland, just go for a wander, which was you know, used by some parents quite a lot. I've talked about the squirrels, and that would lead to lots of chatter and discussion. We saw deer as well. We saw lots of bugs and beasties, you know, along the way as well. This environment is a balm for everyone there. Parents and grandparents, because we did have some grandparents and kinship carers, reported enjoying the break and just listening to natural sounds. And Jessica might march them off into the area away from the main place and kind of talk to them and tell them stories that were totally improvised, just using open questioning to sort of help the children direct the story, and these skills can be used again and again, and you can see from some of the quotes there, you know how, you know, involved the children and the families were. So that was good. So it really gave families out in nature to have fun, to learn and play together, and it strengthened relationships. There was a lot of team working going on in families with some of the activities, and so they had to negotiate, they had to compromise, they had to decide who was going to do what and how. So there was a lot of stuff going on there, communication, and it also gave parents an idea of how little you actually need for play. Just going for a walk in the woods, in the park, you can do so many things with just what's around you. How to present and take advantage of opportunities for play, and how to follow the child's lead. You know, if the child, see the picture of the little boy on the right hand side of your screen, what he's got there is he found some bugs as part of the bug hunt, and he's got his own little den for his bugs, and he was totally engrossed in this activity, and he just went off and did his own little thing and created his own little bug den, his own little bug hotel for his bugs. It was just fantastic. The little boy with the trolley, he was very interested in my trolley that I had to use to bring stuff into the forest, and he just wanted to take that and run it around the forest in the area. So one of the mums, not his mum, got into the trolley and said, right, come on then, you can pull me in the trolley. And it was hilarious because, of course, he couldn't manage, but it was really fun. He had such a fun time with that. And there's Jessica on the top of the screen, a little boy who's building some blocks on top of each other outside the den that they'd made. This was going to be part of their garden for their den. So, you know, there was lots of inspired stuff going on. It was really, really good. Now, we evaluated every session, and Jessica, kept a reflective journal to capture observations and quotes. And this gave us valuable qualitative data, as can be seen here by some of the quotes on this page. You know, I'll let you read them yourself, but, you know, they're just, and we had lots more than this. You know, this is just a small sample of what we got back. So if we move on to the benefits and the challenges. Thank you. So here we have some of the challenges. It wasn't all plain sailing because we did have things that we had to deal with. So basically, due to the vulnerable nature of the families we were working with, who have things going on in their life, sometimes a lot of difficult things, cancellations did happen, often at the last minute. And, you know, with the best one in the world, you know, we would text people the day before, the night before, saying, remember, you've got your session tomorrow, the taxi will be coming to pick you up, that kind of thing, to remind them, you know, to make sure they remembered, all that kind of stuff. But even with that, we did get things happen, oh, I can't come today, whatever. And there was no way of filling up that session at the last minute with another family because it was too short notice. So 3 out of the 60 sessions were cancelled. However, 13 of the 60 sessions were late cancellations. But you know, as I say, we were able to kind of reschedule and get other families involved from the waiting list. Bad weather. Now, there's no such thing as bad weather normally, just bad clothing. But sadly, you know, there were a couple of occasions where we had high wind gusts, very high wind gusts and lashing rain. Yes, and I know it was the summer, but we did. And sadly, due to health and safety reasons, we just couldn't run that session because we were due to do the fire part and it just would not have been safe. So, you know, however, we did reschedule them and we did run them because people were very keen to do those and they wanted to make sure they got that session. So we did manage to get that sorted. Parental stress, cutting short a session, you know, we had one family came and she had 2 children. One of the children, you know, had ASD and some sensory issues, and on the uneven ground, he fell over accidentally and just, you know, was unfamiliar. And he got upset, as you would expect. He was a young child, under 5. Now, normally you would recover from that, but sadly, this boy just wasn't able to recover from that. And because of, you know, some of the other issues he had, he kind of went into a bit of a meltdown. And no matter how hard we or the parent tried to kind of resolve the issue, get him back on track, distraction and all sorts of things we tried, it just wouldn't work. And in the end, she felt the best thing was for her to leave. She just, you know, she couldn't cope, and he just wasn't coping at all. And that's sad, but that's, you know, some of the things you have to deal with. Lack of parental engagement sometimes with some parents with their child was another, you know, in one particular case, they were both there, physically there, but the parent wasn't really engaging with her child very much. It was quite sad. So that's another issue, you know, we had to deal with as well. And sometimes the attitude of some parents not willing to kind of embrace the whole experience, you know, and kind of, you know, kind of get involved with the other family who were there, talk to them. There was a little bit of that sometimes, which was difficult. However, these were just some of the challenges. The benefits far outweighed those, I can tell you. Quality time, you know, nurturing time in the outdoors, spending time together in nature was a huge feature. Learning new skills and new knowledge. you know, lots of times children or adults say, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know they could do this, or I didn't know they lived there. Or it was really interesting. You know, we really enjoyed just finding out stuff. And some were more keen than others to find out more. Feeding their imagination and their curiosity, you know, was a huge part of it. Just trying to, you know, keep them interested and wanting to know more. Improving family relationships, we've mentioned already. That was a huge thing. And then taking risks and trying new things. And as you can see, the little girl here, you know, balancing on the log. Some of them wanted to climb trees, you know. So there was all that going on as well, all the time, really, as we were moving through this process. So if we move on to the next slide.
Carolyn, we are running out of time too, so just so you know.
Okay, right, so I'm going to hand back to Lindsay now.
Okay, yeah, we're nearly done. In Geronimo, we'd ordinarily, well, we evaluate all of our work, but we'd ordinarily be measuring signs of increased engagement and increased confidence in parents. Indicators of this would be further creative and playful approaches outside of our sessions at home. However, due to the more vulnerable nature of these families, having come through various stresses associated with lockdown, as well as a lower number of sessions they were attending, it was decided to keep the more formal evaluation to a minimum and instead focus on a softer approach. So evaluated and captured on a daily basis by way of a reflective field notes, as Caroline mentioned, by our artist Jessica. And really the quotes and what we were looking to capture was everything around nurture, connection, curiosity, learning, friendship and fun. And that was all the themes that were reflected back. And we did do a paper evaluation at the end, but it was very basic. And then very briefly moving forward, colder weather, we were able to, restrictions allowed us to work indoors, but only on a one-to-one model. So that is something we did a few sessions at the end of the year when it was too cold to be outdoors. And finally, we are now back into tier 4 lockdown here in the UK. So we could no longer do face-to-face, one-to-one work. So we have just launched Geronimo online. And we are now doing 8 weeks of online sessions, 3 times a week actually, catering to north, south and central areas of the city. So there's still a community feel to the sessions. And that is, these sessions are being led by a seasoned artist with Geronimo Corey, who's fantastic. And then they're followed by a Google Hangout coffee. So that literally just launched last week. And this is a screenshot of the first session. And that is Geronimo presentation, Geronimo at the Grove.
Thank you, Lindsay and Caroline. That was great. And really interesting to see how many times you pivoted, you know, like as this new word of pivot, how we have to change our practice each time we come up with something. But certainly I don't know, from my personal perspective, I think that the time in the forest was hands down so, important for those kids, particularly when you mentioned that children had never been in a forest before and the sensory experience. So that's just wonderful to learn about. And I must say, Aberdeen City Council, the fact that they actually retained that for the community, that space is, a great example for lots of local governments across the world, not to actually get rid of that. So, as Laura has just commented, that exploring the woodlands and forests is the perfect activity for children during this time of COVID. So at this point, I'm going to bring our all of our presenters back on to actually have a bit of a discussion and to answer some of those questions that are coming up, because there are some questions about how did people get that community, that consultation going, and the project, because all 3 projects have really worked with parents, children and community, and that idea of co-designing. So it'd be really good to actually hear from well, I'll go back to Adam and Dave. I mean, the perception, did you find perceptions of play actually change as a result of the projects? And that may have occurred through all of your projects. Did people's perception of play and understanding about the importance of play actually, change? So please, have the discussion.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things we often talk about is, within our team is, for us, it's a matter of how we can support the enablement and support the time, place, and permission to play, and support communities to support the empowerment of play. Interestingly, when the co-design of the play pod was done with the school, with the physical activity leaders, the young people, and with our healthy active learning team, this group of young people, and we're talking year 4 to 6 students, so roughly ages kind of 8 to 10, 8 to 11 years old. They were very clear on the objectives of the project, and they actually had unbelievable co-design skills and brainstorming skills. They pretty much just led the whole thing, and we would. So that was interesting as well. So it wasn't, they were clear about what they wanted to get out of the project. They were also very clear that they wanted to engage their fellow students to gather insights and learn how they could best meet the needs of their fellow students and their school community, but also the way they wanted to facilitate that whole process. They're also clear about, that gives us so much hope for these next generations. We've got these young people who are leading from the front. Incredible.
I think, following up from what Ad's just said, I think all we need to do is give our young people paper and pens and let them tell us what they want. I think too often as adults we presume wrongly what we think they want, and we're not giving them the opportunity to actually design what they want and how they will best use it. I think what we've learned from talking to our local council here is that play parks are great for 10 minutes. But if you gave young people the chance to design a play park, they wouldn't design a park. So by giving them the opportunity to design pods and design the idea, but the only thing about the pods is it's something safe to keep what they want in to play with. That's why it's in a box on wheels that they can then move around the yard at school. But by giving them the opportunity to create what they want and be the leaders of their play destiny and their play journeys, and that's all we can do. So. And it's also how we can then replicate that in other areas. Replicating it means by identifying what maybe play deserts across our city and giving the pen and paper to the young people and saying, what do you want, what do you need, and how can we support that to happen.
And the lovely thing is with our systems approach from a Healthy Families perspective, it's also about what is inhibiting and what is enabling play. Yeah. It might be that sometimes we have the opportunity to support play focus, and it might be that we sometimes might have an opportunity to address other components of the system which are having an impact on play for communities and neighbourhoods.
So what we've done with Adam's role is, because he's based with us, we've also got him working at council headquarters 1 day a week. So what we hear from our communities and what we hear from our young people, we can then take to our council and take to the departments of the council rather than influence and say, this is what we're hearing, this is the desire of the communities coming from the young people themselves. How can we make this happen across the whole city and out to the region as well? So it's about taking the voice of the community to a strategic level to then influence wider change.
Mariana did actually ask for Playing Peas how you actually got participation of people, into from the community, like the people on the street. Did you get their participation in the project as well? For you, or how did you get the participation?
Yeah, as we've grown the pods and as we've taken the pods, so that we've got 3 pods, as I mentioned earlier, across the regions, and we've got six, I think in total across Christchurch at the moment, but there's potentially 30 more going out there to some other schools and communities. So there's, I think half the ones in Christchurch are based in community spaces.
Yep.
So one on the east side, one on the southwest, one at a sports facility that's being used by anyone who's coming on to watch their siblings play sport. But again, the idea being that we've been out with our butcher paper and our colourful pens and our chalk, so they can draw on not only just draw on paper, but they can draw on the concrete and draw wherever, to give us ideas of what is play, why is play important, and what are the barriers to play, and then how can we
Adam, I might just jump across to Laura and Suzanne about your project, which was, you know, basically on the street. How did you get participation from people? You know? Did you focus group with children, or how did you get that engagement to come along to the street and do those activities?
Should I answer, Susan?
Yeah.
Ja, das Beste ist, du antwortest, ja.
Okay, so it was, yeah, I think it's one of the maybe like the most challenging steps. Like, how can you get the contact to children and people to participate? And we try to, and the first step to do it do a fundament of network in the area around the underground station. So, for example, there was a how do you call that? Like a house of youth. So where teenage people can go and have like a space for them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's this, and like another comment center, like where there is a
community center where other people.
Yeah, exactly. There were like 2 community centers in the near, so we made a network with them, and so we first got the contact as well to children and teenagers, and then we just tried like guerrilla style. We went there and just made we had the chalk and paintings, and we tried to use our presence at the public space to speak to people. And like when we were on the floor painting, children came and asked, "What are you doing there?" And we just say, "Well, we're painting. You want to join?" And yeah, so these were the 2 methods.
And Jill wants to know, Jill's from New Zealand, was it difficult to get permission to paint in public spaces?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I guess this was the biggest challenge, not like participating children and getting them motivated, but like talking to the federal government and everything, and like getting managed the bureaucracy, you say, maybe. So yeah, the first answer we got when we asked in the city council if we can paint there, it was like, "You want to paint on the streets? That's not possible. So paintings on the street have to be can only be there when it's for the traffic." So it was first they didn't understand what we want to do. So we had to make a lot of like portfolios, and we asked a designer to make, because we wanted to participate the children. So we couldn't say we want to paint that, because they asked us, "What do you want to paint?" And we said, "We want to ask the children what they want to paint." So they asked, "Okay, and what will it be?" And we said, "We don't know. We want to ask the children what they want to paint." So
the barrier because people just didn't do that, haven't done that before. And I'm wondering, did you come across, like Lindsay and Caroline, did you come across a barrier? So, you know, like you want to take them where? To the forest? Did you have any of those barriers when you were going? Or Adam and Dave, did you have barriers when you said you wanted to, you know, put these pods around? Were there barriers that you came across because people just hadn't been exposed to it before?
I don't think, no, I mean, none of the families were kind of like not wanting to come. I mean, we talked to them prior to, you know, engaging them on the programme and explained to them what we were kind of things we were going to do and where it would be. And if they didn't want to participate, they had the choice, but most were quite keen to do it. And we didn't have any resistance from the council or authorities.
Oh, yeah. Adam and Dave, did you come across any resistance when you were, establishing these pods?
It's more about perhaps not presuming. So we had the idea and we were lucky enough to have the funding to be able to do the project, but not presuming on communities. That's what, so trying to work with, not do to, but work with the communities. And often the play pods, they're a couple of things, and wonderful insights gathering tool. And secondly, a door opening opportunity for other play conversations for those communities.
Yeah, no, there wasn't any barriers. It was just identifying the right community who wanted opportunity.
We did have a question about whether or not, and this is probably more relevant for the Geronimo program and the play pods, but is the concern from parents when children mix and play together. Was there any concerns, with regard to mixed age groups or children's access and participation with each other?
No, I think you're maybe better placed to answer that, Caroline, because you were there. But yeah, from my perspective, no. At the very start of the project, restrictions were changed slightly so that children didn't need to be socially distanced anymore, which was fantastic. It meant that the children could play naturally together. So that we were fortunate that the easing of restrictions allowed that. The adults had to maintain social distancing, but the children didn't. And I mean, it was a broad age range, but I think they all seemed to just get along really nicely. Yeah, Caroline?
I think definitely there was no issue there. And what happened in a lot of occasions was the older ones would help the younger ones or involve the younger ones, and they just all worked really nicely together. There was no kind of worry about they're older and they won't play with this one, and because they're younger. There was none of that. It just all worked really nicely. And there might have been little groups of children, particularly in larger families, when we had 4 children in one family, different ages, and 2 in another. Maybe the slightly older ones would go off and do something, and the younger ones would do something, as part of whatever we were doing. But there was no problem at all. It worked really well. Yeah.
What about in New Zealand? Any issues with the mixed age groups?
No, and we rely on communities to also, they've got that understanding of, what needs are to be met, with regards from an age perspective. Yeah, no, not at all. And also with this specific project at the school, because we had these young people as the physical activity leaders, they were helping manage how that would work. And how the young people would mix and maybe have their own kind of spaces sometimes as well. So no issues at all.
So as we wrap up, probably I should ask you all the question. What have each of you learnt most? What's one thing that you've learned about play as a result of your participation in these projects? So anyone can go first. What's the one thing that really stands out with your project that made you think this is,
I would just say that COVID kind of threw a curveball. Obviously we weren't anticipating that at all, but for us what came out of it kind of was a gift. Actually, it was the silver lining of COVID, because Geronimo is all about making the most of what you've got and showing that what you've got is enough, with your natural environment. So, to have that focused, concentrated time outdoors for play, which it's something we wouldn't probably have written a funding application specifically for. Circumstances meant this was the route we had to take, but it meant that we got even more out of even less, in a sense, if you see what I mean, in terms of resources. We needed nothing because we had the forest.
Yeah. Children will play with the things that you don't think they'll play with, and they will create their own play with those items, natural things. It's amazing.
Yes, so if so I learned that in Germany we say you don't have to invent the wheel again. And so in Nuremberg there's the city council, like 10 years ago, they designed and created a path of the rights of children in a park here. And I can send a link in the chat later. And they as well painted the roads, and it was different, but it was in the concept it was the same. So I think it's like a good thing to like an event like this to change ideas and just copy like open source things and just take the ideas when they're good. It's great, and take it and just adapt them to the conditions in your local area, and then ask the children what they want to do. So like you said, Caroline, they have so much ideas and they are so like empowered already that they just need the frame or the space.
Yeah, I think that too. You have to create spaces and places for children, but they are very full of fantasies and self-determination. So they can do whatever they want. We have to offer them the chance to play, and this is, I think, the main thing. And there's a lot of simple things you can do to make that happen. So I think this is the best thing. You don't have to think such big and with all these stuff and much money and all the things. You just go for it. Go outside, take some chalk, and maybe temporarily you can put some nice pictures on the floor or daily spaces, so it doesn't cost a lot. So,
Are you, Dave?
That's my ask you the same question.
Okay, I would say the learning never stops. And the amplification of play is the result of collaboration. We've got awesome teams internally within our trust. We've got an incredible network within play in New Zealand, in Aotearoa, and beyond with you all, but also with communities. So it really is, it's a real team effort. To make sure that time, place, and permission of players is ensured.
Adam, do you want to say anything?
Oh, that was Adam. What did I learn about? Yeah, I think possibly what it kind of re-emphasized what we were seeing and hearing from prior to the work we were doing anyway. Is that the young people are the best people and experts when it comes to play, and I think as adults and as enablers, all we need to be able to do is give them that say the time and space to be able to do it, and as everyone's sort of made those points. So the more we can do that, and the more we can involve them in the planning of play, the more sustainable it will be for the future.
Well, I know that the words of work with, not do to communities is something that we really need to sort of keep at front and centre for tonight with our play in the community. But Juliet has made a comment that I think I should, a fairly good words to finish on, and she's written, it's wonderful to see 3 excellent examples, all including community participation, low cost and innovative. Thank you greatly for taking the time to share your projects and putting these presentations together for us all. So Lindsay, Caroline, Adam, Dave, Laura, Suzanne, thank you so much. Dankeschön. And we've appreciated having you present tonight. And I'm sure that everyone else has been inspired again and we're midway through our webinar series. And obviously we've got more to go, but it was lovely to have this as the midway mark for us all.